Welcome back to another video, and today I will be doing my version of the eyeshadow tag video. Welcome back, and as you probably see from the title, we are doing the eyeshadow tag video that has been making sort of rounds on Makeup YouTube. I think originally that this video is based on Samantha and Allie Glines have made like their sort of versions to it, and I think now other creators have been making their version of it, and I thought it would be fun to also do my take on this. And I didn't include like every question that was in there. I think I took the question from Samantha March's like description box. So if you want to see like all the original questions that were included, then you can go onto her video and check them. But I sort of took the ones that I thought would be fun to try. And now let's go to I will take my Excel sheet out of my phone and see. So first one, the oldest palette and the newest palette. So first let's start with the oldest one, and this is this one. So this is the Sultry from the Anastasia Beverly Hills. Mine is not as old as you would think that it could be. So I have gotten mine, I think this was on Christmas 2020 when she did the relaunch of this. This came in the sort of Christmas set. There was the mascara, there was the eyeliner, and then there was this one. My husband got this from me. And for me, this is like on its last year of use. As you can see, I have gotten quite, I think there's quite a lot of like, we have done some damage to this one. And this has been, I think, a good, generally a palette, because I actually don't have a lot of these sort of all cool toned palettes, especially like all cool toned neutral palettes in my collection. So this has served its purpose quite well, and I do think that the formula has lasted time quite decently, but it is definitely like getting older. And I think I did mention on my last, like this sort of beginning of the year eyeshadow collection video on declutter, that we are giving this one more year, and then this will probably get to out of my collection, because unfortunately this is getting old. Then to the newest palette, and we have actually two, because these arrived on the same order, and you have not, I think, seen these. You have seen, no, you haven't seen these in any video, so these are sort of premiering. So I will first show this one. So this is the Danessa Myricks Light Groundworks, and this was the Blooming Romance, and here we go. She is completely untouched, just like the palette that I will show next to this, and I got this from Beauty Bay, in which I think was the first one of the European retailers that this launched on. However, it took forever for my order to arrive. This will go in my makeup rotation on, I'm doing my switch next week, so in I think a few weeks you will start seeing the more content on this one. But I'm interested to try this out, because I do know the original Groundwork palette was quite popular. Sorry, my camera just shook, and yeah, but anyway, back to this one. So I know the original Groundwork was quite popular, so now that she came up with the pinky themed one, I thought that I'd give this a try. But this was very expensive, I will also notice that. The palette that I ordered on the same order was this one. So I caved in and ordered the Reckless Romance palette. This was on some type of, I did get discount code from the order, so I actually didn't pay full price of any of these, but this is how the palette looks like. So this sort of grungy Valentine's that I have been discussing on my channel, and which we did see a lot of like Valentine's palette coming out this year. So I'm kind of late with this one, but I did still want to like try this out. And I was sort of like thinking that I'm not gonna buy any more this sort of limited edition Beauty Bay palettes, but this sort of, the color story got me, because there are some pinks and mauves in this one with some cool tones. So again, this will be something that you will start seeing content on in a few weeks time. But yeah, so those were my sort of oldest and newest palettes. So the next one is Show Me Your Colorful palette, and I chose, I don't think this is gonna surprise anyone, so it's this one, Cosmic Brushes Delicious Delights, my favorite colorful palette that I have. So I have always said that what Cosmic Brushes does well is, especially they have a pigmented colorful matte formula that still blends very effortlessly. Also their shimmers are very beautiful, but especially with them, and considering that the more colorful shades are usually something that can be hard to formulate and people can have like difficulties in using them. By the way, the Cosmic Brushes, especially what they shine at, is these kind of shades, and this is, I do think that this isn't like a limited edition. So Cosmic Brushes, because it is an indie brand, I would advise looking at their sort of social medias at when they're restocking stuff, but I do believe this is something that they are like keeping available as long as there is demand. So if you have been like eyeing this in terms of quality and how easy this is to work with, I would like still order this, and the packaging is like very fun. Then the next question is, show me your full smallest palette, and is this one. So this is the Catrice 5 in a box Vivid Burgundy, and mine is very abused. I think I could have included this in there will be a section last, like what is your most used palette, so this could have been actually included also in that one, but I chose to include it in this one because this is the smallest one. And why this is so abused is because I obviously use this quite a lot during traveling, so this is something that is just quite easy to throw in my travel bag. There are like few especially like standout shades, so this one and also this sort of white shimmer here, so both of these are kind of like shade that are just easy to throw in the lid. The mattes are kind of, I'd say the matte quality is pretty average, but still I do think that these are quite good like small palettes for drugstore if Catrice is a brand that's easily available to you. So next one is, show me your everyday palette, and how I approached this question was that, okay, so if magically all my palettes were to disappear, and I would even be in a situation where I would have to like also rebuy a lot of my other makeup collection, so it would be a palette that I would have to, that I know I would like, it would suit all kinds of occasion, and it would be something that would be easily available to me immediately in store, and I would like, because obviously if I would be in kind of horrendous situation that I have to rebuy all my makeup collection, I also couldn't spend like a lot of money to it. So I chose this one, so this is the Blush Nudes from MUA, and this was my top ranked drugstore palette from last year, and these are like, these cost $6.95 in our like MUA retailers, so these are incredibly inexpensive, and I have said that while the packaging is cheap AF, the quality inside, the eyeshadow quality is like the best drugstore quality, and actually like pretty good for also compared to other mid-range stuff that I have tried. And this is just that the shimmers of this are so sparkly, they have this sort of wet shimmer look when you apply them to your eyes. The mattes are very easy to work with, they are very blendable. I do say that if you have a more tan, deeper skin, even the darker matte, so for example these two over here, then there could be a bit of issue that you can't get enough depth with them, but for like a fair to light skin tone, this is a very good like good, easy, exactly like an everyday palette to work with, that you can get like more lighter toned looks, but you can also get some deeper looks, and just that the quality of this one makes it like very effortless to work with, and even something that you can just throw into your eyes very quickly. So not the perhaps like, as I've always said, best packaging, but if you're just looking like your everyday good palette that will get the work done, then this is an excellent choice. Now what was the second question? Show your biggest palette. So I had to actually check that which one was this, the Blend Bunny or by Beauty Bay. So but the by Beauty Bay ones have more. So the Blend Bunny ones have, I think, 30 shades are the biggest ones. So I think the Dollhouse and Sickly Sweet were the palettes that I was looking, but these are these have 42 shades. So these are the by Beauty Bay, and these are the sort of mainline palettes. So these are the berries and then there's the earthy palette, and I'm just gonna actually show the berries one. I'm not gonna hold both of them because they are so effing heavy. So I have always said that you don't need 42 shades of pink. I bought this purely because this was more of an hedonistic buy for me. I wanted to have all the pinks, and the price of like, in terms, if you're looking for good inexpensive eyeshadow, and especially if you're looking for more of these colorful shades, but you don't want to spend the sort of high-end or indie prices for like more colorful shades, I do think Beauty Bay is a good place to start with, because at least on my use these are quite easy to work with. You are able to build depth with them, and for example in this one there's more like sparkly shimmers, for example this one over here and this one here, and I think even some of them here in the lower like here, and they are also do have like more satin type of shimmers, and I think like, and if you're just someone who's building your makeup collection, these are good like palettes to start with, to test out what sort of color stories you like. Obviously I think with most of these, for example with this one, the 16 pan version would have been like enough for me, and I don't think there has been like many of them that I would have recommended. I think the only one that I have said that the 42 version is like worth it, for example, is the earthy one, because this has the sort of because the 16 pan version of this is only a green palette, But in this 42 pan you actually have the lower half here, which actually makes this like the most interesting one. So there are like these sort of reddish mustardy tones and even some brown and orange tones over here. So this actually brings a lot more variety, making it more than just a green palette that the 16 pan version is only. But yeah, those were sort of the biggest palettes in my collection. So the next palette was the Show the palette with the best memory, and I do have to say that makeup is not something that I try to attach too many like sort of emotional things to it, because it is still a consumable product, and it is like a consumer product, and we have all the time like new stuff comes in, new formulas come in, old formulas go out. So I try to avoid like attaching too much emotional attachment to my makeup, and rather just think that is it a product that I like, is it something that I will get use out of, and is it worth keeping in my collection. But something that I did want to mention in this one, and you will see an image of this one because the palette, I don't have it anymore. So Sigma Code de Rosa palette was something that, aside from the color stories, which it had this sort of beautiful pink peachy color story, but that is a palette that I used when I got engaged to my husband, and this is also like tells a little bit about the circumstances. So our engagement happened in between when we were having like in between our first like COVID like pandemic, and then there was like a bit like space there when they were sort of loosening the restriction, and we were actually able to go to a proper hotel and proper dinner. And then we had the sort of second sort of wave of COVID that actually began after the sort of summer, so it was quite short-lived period. But during that, there was this short period that we were able to do something like else than be cooped up in our apartment, because I think most of us can remember that was quite a traumatic time, and especially considering like, but luckily we haven't had the like we didn't get the we didn't get COVID at any point, but I do know a lot of people got, and they suffered quite a lot from it. But this was just something that this palette as a whole was something that I immediately knew that when it was confirmed that we were actually able to do something else than be in our apartment. So I immediately knew that I wanted to create a look with that palette, and it's sort of like, considering how sort of how unsure and uncertain and how like gloomy everything seemed at the time, the palette sort of did remind me that there was something like good that did happen during that quite a traumatic period to, I think, all of us. Unfortunately, I had to declutter this palette because while the shades were beautiful, there were a few shades that made my eyes like literally like tear up. So unfortunately, like obviously eyeshadow is quite difficult to use if your eyes start watering from it and it like messes your makeup. I haven't had that issue with a lot of palettes. I can use most red and pink pigments without having any issues, but unfortunately in that one, so for example, I don't think I have what they call carmine allergy or something that's quite common for people. But it's just that with some shadows, unfortunately, it has happened, and those have not always been either red shadow, but with Code de Rosa, I do think it was maybe some of the reddish shades, but still, despite having to get rid of that palette, it is a palette that holds special memories for me. From my wedding, I obviously had a makeup artist do my makeup. I don't even remember what the person used. I just had a look in my mind and I asked her to execute the look. But for the engagement thing, because we did it was just two of us, then I obviously did my own makeup. So that is why I wanted to mention do the Code de Rosa, even though I don't have it in my collection anymore. Okay, so next are the palettes worth the hype and not worth the hype, and I will show the worth the hype first because those are the palettes I have, and this is actually the second part where I'll be including a palette that I don't no longer have. So worth the hype are these one. So these are the Oden's Eye Christmas collections, not from last year but from 2022, and I have said that I think this is the best quality Oden's Eye has produced, like period to this day. I even think like some of their newer stuff that hasn't come to reach the quality of these ones. So first one was this one. So this is the Christmas Eve palette. So this was the more cool toned bluish one, but I have always said that this is a cool toned palette that also surprised me pleasantly, that I actually enjoy using this quite a lot, and there's something very effortless in this, that how the color story is planned out and how these shades can be combined and what kind of looks I can use. This is like the only blue leaning palette that I don't have to go on like actively thinking what I will have to do, because I know that everything in this like fits together. Then the second palette that came along with this one was the Merry Christmas one, which is the more colorful one. And this has very beautiful like green and pinkish red shade. This is the more brighter of the two, and I have always said that I struggle a bit like mixing up, so I usually either stick on the bottom half or on the upper half, but I have also like made efforts to use this like mix and match these. But again, very beautiful. Like the matte formula is pigmented, but it blends the shimmers, especially in this one and in the Christmas Eve one, were like some of the best, like most dimensional shimmers. There were even, I think, some multichromes included this in both of these, and these are just like absolutely the best thing that Odensai has come out to this date. Then the palette Not Worth the Hype, and this you will be seeing again image because I have decluttered this. So I referenced to this. Did I already reference this? Not maybe in. No, it was another video I actually filmed before this one. So Blend Bunny Sugar and Grunge palette, we know, and I mentioned this in my sort of beginning of the year declutter video, that unfortunately for me this just didn't work out. I to this day don't know that did I just get a bad palette, because a lot of people seem to have liked this palette. However, for me the issue was that the shimmers, they already felt hard panned even before I had even tried the palette like one time. And the pastel palettes, especially comparing that I have now the Sickly Sweet palette, that I had no issues with pastel shades. With the Sugar and Grunge, the pastel shades, I felt that I had to do, like, I had to build and build them, and they still didn't seem to show up. The mid-tone and the deeper matte shades, I think, worked as well as with my other Blend Bunny palettes, but unfortunately this one was just something that I was just like thinking that, like, because this was one of those palettes that I truly got the feeling, is there something like wrong with me? Because everyone else was saying that this is the great same Blend Bunny quality, they are liking the pastels, the shimmer and everything, and I was like that mine is just not working. And also like the cover art, this sort of roses and grunginess, like this 90s grunge thing was like very something that was also very appealing to me. I do know that unfortunately they have had to like discontinue this palette because there's been some like legal stuff. The owner of Blend Bunny explained it quite well in her own social media channel, and because I do know that still a lot of people like this palette, I do know that it is quite unfortunate they have to do because of this kind of reason. But the owner said that they will be bringing this color story back in some format, so I wouldn't like go out my way and buy this second hand in a very expensive price from someone. Just like wait for the owner to do the sort of like revamping of this one and bringing it out on another name. But yeah, this was sort of my palette not worth the hype. We're getting to the last two. So first one was show me a palette from favorite palette from a favorite brand, and I knew immediately that I would want to include this one. So this is the Muse palette from Cosmic Brushes, and this was I think this was both my like favorite indie palette from last year and also my favorite palette altogether from like my top 10 palettes that I did a ranking of. And this has I have always said what makes this like for me is that there's like, it has a bit of everything that I like. We have some color, there are some neutrals, there are beautiful shimmers, there's like pinks there are a bit of pink here, which is of course always something. I'm a big fan of pink eyeshadow, so we have that one. And there's just something about this color story that makes this for me an all around, like you would think that yeah, it's maybe a bit dark, maybe this could be a fall-esque palette, but for me this is truly a palette because it has this sort of different tones of colors and different shades that for me this is an like all around palette a year. And what I do like about this one, that because it has a bit more neutral shades, I can create a quick like a neutral look that if there's an occasion that I for some reason don't want to wear more colorful makeup, but we also do have like colorful options in this one. And also what I do have to give credit for that I do feel that the colors, like even the more brighter colors, they are quite like easy to sort of combine with also like the maybe not so colorful shades in this one. And I still haven't come out with a look with this one that I didn't like. So I'd say that if you have been like still eyeing this, thinking that is this worth ordering from the brand, I would like 100% recommend it. And then the last one was my most used palette, and I obviously did say like the I think like most used would be in terms of like would be the Sultry palette that I did show was my oldest one. However, I did try to like consider that yeah, well, but because that is the oldest one, obviously I've used it the most because it's been longest in my collection. But I did try to like count in this one that most used one considering how long I have had it. And when you sort of take into consideration how long I owned the palette, then it was obviously that it's gonna be this one. So this is the Blend Bunny Dollhouse palette, and this is the palette that made me fall in love with Blend Bunny. And I have said that what makes me like go back to this time and time again is that you can get neutral looks out of this one, but there are like these more sort of like, I'd say, darker or earthier colors, so you can also do a bit colorful with this one. I have always said that what especially like impressed me with this one was the sort of pastel row over here, how easy it, how very like surprised I was that how like pigmented they were from one go, but still very easy to work with. But also like similarly these dark shades, because initially I was like very scared when I initially got this, that oh, those are quite dark, like how will they blend, especially considering that I have quite fair of a skin tone. But no, those also, like, I have created some of my best looks with this one. The shimmers in this one aren't like the most shiftiest of indie shades, but what I do like about the shimmers in this one is that they are very like, they feel a bit creamy, and I was like already like a bit worried, but are they gonna crease them? But no, actually, even though they are more like creamier, they still go very smooth on your eye. They create very beautiful like sparkly eye look, but they also don't like crease away during the daytime. And this is just something that I say that if you've been thinking about trying out Blend Bunny and then you're thinking that maybe some of their more colorful palettes, like they are a bit too daunting to you, then start with this one, because with this one you are able to dab into a bit with color, but in the same time you are able to, like, you have your sort of reliable neutral shades for you. And this is just an, yeah, one of the, again, I think best palettes that I have tried during, I think, my years of makeup in general, but also just best palette in terms of like indie palettes that I have been like to this day try, and that is why I think is the reason why I gravitate towards this time and time again. Phew, that was quite a lot of palettes to talk about, but comment down below what have been sort of, if you would do this kind of a challenge, what would be your choices for the palettes. I will put the questions that I answered to my description box, but as I said, that if you want to go and see sort of all the questions that could have been included, then go into Allie, Glines or Samantha March's video that this sort of tag video was inspired from. But if you like this video, then push the like button, subscribe to the channel and ring the bell button if you want to get notifications from my future videos. You can also find me with the same nickname on Makeup Hedgehog on Instagram. I hope I will be seeing you in another video soon. Bye bye!